Hello, I'm children's author Ross Montgomery, and in this video I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about my virtual visits and how they work. Now, I've done hundreds of these over the last few years, and there's no set way that they have to go. If you have any particular ideas about what you want, we can work something out together. But I generally find that there are three different models for how my virtual visits tend to go. If you want me to talk to Foundation or Key Stage 1, I'd probably recommend a 30-minute picture book session. Anything from 10 Delicious Teachers with the illustrator Sarah Warburton to something more gentle like Space Tortoise with the illustrator David Litchfield. It can be a book they've read before, it can be one that's brand new for them, either works. I would introduce the book, I'd explain how I wrote it, I'd introduce myself, I'd introduce the illustrator and talk about working with them, and then I'd read the book from start to finish. Now, I wouldn't just be sitting here turning the pages like that. I would share my screen and run the children through an animated slideshow on PowerPoint, so they get to see the detail in the illustrations, focus in on certain bits, follow the story really clearly. I'll stop and be asking them questions and pointing things out to them. At the end, I might be able to even set them a small creative challenge or an activity, something that they can do after the session is over, but that would be about 30 minutes, which I find is good for that age group. For Key Stage 2, there's a few different options. We could pick a book that the children haven't read before, and then I get to introduce it to them. Anything from my Shake Up Shakespeare series, which I'd say are quite good for Year 3 and 4. They introduce famous Shakespeare plays and turn them into short, silly stories about stuff in school going wrong. We could also pick one of my longer books for older children, anything from The Midnight Guardians. This is set during the Second World War, so it can tie in with things like your history lessons very nicely. Or something like I Am Rebel, the story about a dog who runs away from home to try and save his owner. Again, I'll be introducing myself, introducing the book, explaining how I wrote it, why I wrote it, doing a reading, and at the end, we would then have time where the children could ask me some questions. At the very end, if you wanted, I could even set your class a challenge, a small creative activity, something that they can do after the session is over. I generally find doing creative sessions in virtual visits, it can be done if you want me to, but I normally find it's better for me just to have a chance to talk to the children and show them stuff, and then any creative work can be done afterwards with a little guidance from me. However, in all of my experience of doing these, I found that the best virtual sessions are when a class has already read one of my books and they really just want a chance to see me and to talk to me and ask me questions. So if your class have read one of my books and enjoyed it, then you could get in touch. I could talk in much more depth about that book. I could even do things like go into my notebook, I've got one here, there we go into one of my notebooks and show them the very first notes that I made and explain to the seeds of the story where it came from and how it developed. And that would also give your class a much longer session where they could ask me some questions, which in my experience is all they ever want to do. For Key Stage 2, I'd recommend about 45 minutes is about the right amount of time. As I said, Foundation in Key Stage 1, it's more like 30. But if you had something completely different in mind, please just do get in touch. Go on the contact section of my webpage and ask me. There are no silly questions, but hopefully that gives you an idea of what a virtual session with me would look like. Otherwise, looking forward to hearing from you.